Welcome to the From the Shadows podcast. I'm your host, Shane Grove. And before we get started with this exciting episode, I just want to remind everybody that if you can't get enough of the From the Shadows podcast, and let's be honest, who really can? You can go check us out at our website, fromtheshadowspodcast.com. You can find all of our social media links. You can go check out Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X. I don't even know. Maybe Nita has a Pinterest From the Shadows channel up there on Pinterest where you can, maybe she's picking out Bigfoot wallpaper or something. I don't know. You have to go check it out. But if you want to get a hold of me, you can hit the contact button on the website, send me an email, especially if you have a story or a experience that you want to come on and share. I'll get back to you, and maybe you can come on and be a guest. If you want to get a hold of me directly, you can find me at Shane Grove Author on Instagram. Shoot me a message on any of the Facebook messengers. I'll get those too. So with that being said, today's guest was coming on. He's going to come on and be a guest with me in the Howler because he has some fantastic high school football stories that we're going to get into in a very special episode. But in talking to him, I found out he has some cryptid stories too. And he was glad to come on and share them with all of our listeners. So Cory from Oklahoma, welcome to the From the Shadows podcast.
Great to be here.
Well, it's great to have you here. I don't know when compared to this episode, the episode with the Howler might have already been out and everybody might have already heard that. I don't know. Who knows what order they'll come out in, but I know we haven't recorded that one yet, but I'm looking forward to it. It should be a fun one for everybody involved. But if that being said, I just promised everybody you had a couple cryptid stories. So I'm going to let you start where you want to start and just let's get into, what you've had to happen to you.
Okay. To begin with, I mean, I have always known I was going to have this Dogman encounter eventually because of where I live. And like I said, I just live like 8 miles north of the Oklahoma Red River.
Okay.
So the Red River is the spot, man. And people, Eastern Oklahoma, you'll see a lot more people talk about the encounters and stuff. But once you hit the halfway point and go west, everybody's a little tighter lip about what they see and stuff. It's kind of like pulling teeth to get them to talk to you about it. But I have been preparing myself for this the whole time. And even when I saw it, I was still trying to wrap my head around what in the heck I just saw. It's just, it's hard to explain. And when people say, well, why don't you get a video of it or whatever? Man, it's difficult to remember to grab your phone when you've got eyes on this thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the way this happened is my best friend and I, and he's pretty much my investigation partner by, circumstance, because most everything that's ever happened to me and this guy have been together. And we both experience paranormal and cryptid encounters, but when we get together, man, it's like hitting the throttle on this stuff. I don't know why, but I guess we kind of vibrate on the same frequency. But okay, his granddad has some land south of us that's a little bit closer to the river, and we would go arrowhead hunting and artifact hunting all the time. And this dude, he's either the best artifact hunter I've ever seen or he's the luckiest. But either way, he's found some crazy stuff. And we would go down there periodically, and basically I would look for stuff at first, and then I was like, man, I don't know what I'm doing trying to look for this stuff. So I just kind of watched his back while we were down there. And this was probably, I'm going to say the fifth, probably sixth time we had went down there arrowhead hunting. And he would pull his truck up to the same spot every time. And like I could draw you a picture of this, but there was a big thicket, not a big one, it was a small thicket we would park straight in front of. And there was a couple of mesquite trees in between the truck and where we would park. And every time we parked there, we would get out of the truck and cross a little ravine that wasn't very big. You could hop right across it. But behind the thicket, there was a washout where the water runs and then comes down that little stream. And we would always go through there in the same spot, hop that little stream, and go to the other side on the south side of the property, on the land. And when we would pull in, there's usually hardly ever any cattle on this place, so we never had to shut the gate back. All right, and this will come into the story as I go. But so that day we pulled up, I had a funky feeling something was out there. But you know, when you get that feeling, you tell yourself, "Oh, it's just it's nothing." You know, always trust that feeling.
Yeah.
Okay, so we go, and a lot of times we'd take water with us and stuff, but we didn't this day, and it was kind of warm. And we went over there and started looking around, and I said, I'm going to just stay back here. And I kind of watched his back, and I kept getting this funky feeling something was watching us. And I didn't say anything. And he's looking around, and when a guy's looking for some stuff like that, you just get away from them. You don't want to mess up what they got going on, whether it's their luck or, just mojo. So, man, I'm sitting there, and I'll walk around for a little bit, and I'm going to say we're there for an hour. And I told him, I said, hey, dude, I'm getting kind of thirsty. I said, I'm going to bring any water. I said, I don't think I'm going to go to the truck. And he goes, there's a deal of bottled water in my back seat. I said, okay. And he goes, I'm right behind you, which means he'll be along in 5-10 minutes. So I walk back to the truck, and I'm sitting there looking through the windshield at this thicket that we pull up to every time. And like I said, there's 2 mesquite trees in between us and the thicket, and they've got long branches that 2 long branches kind of come like this, all right, and made a triangle. This is the only reason I saw this. It just happened. What I witnessed just happened to be in the view of this part of the triangle. One of the limbs come out like this, and the other one come out like this. And I thought, man, that's cool, that it makes that triangle. And I got to looking, and there was a tunnel pushed through that thicket, opened up all the way through it. And I'm going to say this thicket's probably 15 feet wide or deep,
Yeah.
and I'm going to say 50 yards long. But remember, the washout, because I've walked around 100 times, the washout behind it drops you eye level. So if you're back there, and let's say you're 6 feet tall, all you have to do, if you was to look through that spot pushed open, was just kind of get down and drop a couple of feet. So I'm looking at this hole pushed through this thing, and I see eyes watching me. And I'm sitting there, and I'm going, what? And I kept watching it, and it had brindle stripes coming across the forehead. And the first thing I think of is, that's a cow or a bull or something, because I go with a logical explanation. I don't immediately say, oh, that's a Dogman. When I investigate, I keep myself as honest as I would anybody else. Probably I'm more thorough about myself in an investigation or an experience. So I'm sitting here, I'm trying to wrap my head around why that can't be a cow. A cow wouldn't push that hole through that thicket to watch us, you know.
No.
But I'm in the shape of the skull is like a bull, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of triangular a little bit, and comes and but I'm sitting here wrestling with my own logic at the time of what this thing is, and it went 20 different things went through my mind at that time, but it couldn't have been any of them. And I'm dialed in. Well, I guess I thought that it noticed I was watching it. Okay. So imagine you're looking through a hole pushed through this thicket, and this thing goes like this and moves out of the view of the hole.
Okay.
And it went south. Okay. And I thought, what the hell just happened? That thing just moved sideways, you know? And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, well, I can't see behind it because it's a washout. So whatever direction the direction it went, there's still a drop behind it. And you couldn't, if it took off running to the south, you would never see it. It could go all the way to that little stream, that little ravine, without you ever seeing it. And I'm talking, it could be 4 feet tall. And when it moved, that's the last time I saw this thing. And I'm sitting here and I'm trying to wrap my head around what the heck I just saw. When I look in the hole, and there's another one scooted farther back, but it's watching me now. And I'm like, what is going on here? You know, so that means this thing was watching me. There was another one directly behind it, ready in case it had to move. And when that first one moved, that second one was there, right there, watching me. And you could, because it was farther back, you could see a little better, but same kind of head. I could make out the shape of its head a lot better, and a little bit different brindled stripe on it, not quite like the first one. And I got out, and I didn't walk up there because I wasn't armed, but I got my phone out and took some pictures that I lost on this phone. I dropped it, busted it, but I've still got the phone. But I get out and I take the pictures, and I get back in the truck, and about that time, my friend is walking he's coming from the south, walking to the pickup. And I hadn't quite put one and one together yet, but the reason that thing moved out of the view is it heard him walking to the truck.
Okay.
Okay. Now that I sit and think about it and put everything together. Well, he's packing. He's got a shoulder holster 45 that he carries. And he walked up, and I'm back in the pickup seat by now, but I'm still taking pictures. And he goes, "What are we doing?" And I said, "See where those two limbs cross right there?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "See that hole pushed through the thicket right there?" And he goes, "Uh-huh." I said, "Walk up there and see what that is." So he gets out, and I don't know why I didn't record this. But I've got my eyes on that hole, and he doesn't have his pistol drawn. He's not one to pull it out and do goofy stuff. Matter of fact, this is the only time I've ever seen him pull his pistol. But he gets up close to it, and he's thinking it's nothing until he gets up close enough to make it out when he looks through the hole. And he kind of starts leaning to the side like this and looking. And I watched him, and all of a sudden he goes and went straight up, pulled his pistol and pointed it at the hole, and backed all the way to the truck. And it comes all the way to the door, gets in, holsters, pulls the door shut. And I said, "What'd you see?" And he said, "I didn't see nothing." And I said, "Come on now." And he goes, "I told you I didn't see nothing." And me and this guy have had so many encounters with different things and stuff. I said, "Come on now, Jeremy. What'd you see?" And he said, "I told you I didn't see nothing." Well, we get back to the house, and I said, "You ain't leaving until you tell me what you saw." And he goes, "Cory, it growled at me. I ain't never heard anything growl like that in my life." He goes, it vibrated my chest. The growl from it. I said, "You know what that was two dogmen, bro." He goes, "Well, I don't want no part of them." And he goes, "Why didn't you tell me that?" And I said, I suspected that's what it was, but I didn't know. And I said, when I got out of the pickup, I didn't walk up there real close because I was just taking pictures, of this thing looking through that hole. And I said, "But I'm pretty sure that's what it was, or they were, Well, he went back out there the next day and found a track and took a picture of it, which he busted his phone too, lost it. But it had 3 claws in the mud in that spot where we cross in that little ravine.
So he went behind the thicket to see where it was standing. Like, is that
yeah, but there wasn't any tracks back there. There was just, the thing was that that little draw we crossed where the water ran behind.
Oh, okay. All right.
It caught the most of the moisture and stuff, and it would be the last spot that would dry out where that water runs across. And that's where he found the track, right where we crossed to go to the other side of the property. That little ravine had trees in it and stuff. And the one spot we could get through, that's where he found the track. But there were 3 claws were imprinted into the mud, and then behind it, it had a little indention, like probably about 4 inches behind the claws. It had an indention going the same direction, but after I, thought about it and everything, when he come back the next day and he goes, "Look what I found." And I said, "You went back out there?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Dude, by yourself?" He goes, "Yeah." And I said, "You're crazy."
Yeah.
To do that.
Yeah.
And I said, "But let me see the picture." And it looked like 3 like daggers all laid almost straight side by side with each other. Just the outside ones were a little shorter. The middle one was a little longer. And then, like I said, it had an indention, like you just chopped it with your hand behind it. That's where, when they squat down and their hock comes down behind the claw or behind its foot, it'll make that indention. Because I talked to another person who found a track who lives directly on the Red River, and they drew it for me, and it looked identical to this one. And this girl she didn't know anything about this encounter, and there's 2 clues right there that match up with each other, because she had a Dogman incident, and she went and looked, and she only found 1 track, and she drew it for me. And like I said, she went to art school and everything, and she's got a good memory of what she sees and draws and stuff. But that's 2 pieces of the puzzle that came together. Had we both been packing that day, maybe we would have stuck around. But like I said, when he said that thing growled at him, he goes, I felt it vibrate my chest. It rumbled me, which is another thing people talk about. The growl from them.
And you didn't hear from sitting in the truck.
No, it never growled at me, but
But I
but
mean,
I didn't.
even in the truck, you didn't.
No, no, but I didn't go up and confront it like he did. You know, he had the pistol on him, so he really wasn't worried about much till he heard the growl. And like I said, he said it rumbled in his chest. But sitting in the truck, you're not gonna feel that or hear that because you got the windshield and everything. For you got,
Yeah.
But okay, he finds the track and he showed me the picture of it. And I don't know why we didn't cast it or go back out there. We do so much that stuff like this just happens all the time. But I just started in my head, putting one and one together, and I was like, "That's too. What animals would be that intelligent, Shane, to say, okay, I'm going to sit right here and I'm going to watch these guys, and you stand behind me, okay, in case I have to move, and then when I move, you'll be right there to watch them, and still have eyes on them."
I wouldn't even think of that as a person.
That's what I said. They're smarter than us.
I wouldn't even think. So what happened when what happened when you told him that you sent him back out there with his gun and that there was two of them?
I didn't. What?
You did you forget to tell him that part too?
Well, all right. He's my best friend, right? So we kind of mess with each other a lot. But like I said, had I been armed, I probably would have got out and went with him. But I was just watching to see what happened. And, I told him what had happened as we were going home. And I said, dude, there was one watching me in the hole, through the hole. I said, and I realize now that when it moved, it was because you were coming. I didn't, in my mind, I hadn't put this together yet, but if you've got a logical brain, you can sit there and kind of put the pieces together of what just happened if you'll just stay calm and think about how everything went. So I'm thinking, I just had, my first Dogman encounter, and it was two of them.
Now, did the thought ever cross your mind that the one might not have just left because of that? It might have been like, I'm going to circle around this guy.
That's why I think that track was there.
That it was coming back around.
Yeah. I think it went around, came around, and was watching the side of the truck from that vantage point. And he went out there the next day and found that track.
Jeez.
See how the pieces all come together?
Oh yeah.
And I'm sitting here, the intelligence of these things, because like you said, you're a person and you wouldn't even think of doing that.
No, it's almost like he thought. It's almost like he thought, if he's watching and I move, he's not gonna. Maybe he's just gonna think I took a step backwards.
Yeah.
Not realizing that one is going and circling around and maybe going to try to get, because they may not even at that point have known that he was out there, or didn't realize he had a gun.
Yeah.
Which. Who knows? I mean, I don't even know if that is enough to deter. Like a handgun would be enough to deter these creatures from.
I think you got to shoot it in the eye or the mouth. That's anyone who's and I listen to a lot of encounters, man. I'm not. I want to hear what everyone has to say, and then I'll decide for myself what I think was true or not.
Yeah.
And when people say, oh, I ain't listening to none of that, man, if you listen to everyone, some of it's going to be true.
Yeah. And you'll hear a lot of the same stuff. And that's when you start, because it's like you said, I don't know how many episodes I've heard of other shows and how many I've had on, and nobody that has shot or claims to have shot one of these things below the neck and above the waist has done anything to it other than just make it
correct.
Make it mad.
Yeah, this and all.
Yeah. It doesn't affect it. It's almost like they're wearing, body armor.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And, when you think about it, the way people describe how they're built and everything, that makes perfect sense. But
Mm-hmm.
the cunningness of these creatures, from just what I've seen, and like you just said, you would never thought of that.
No, no, but I'm not a predator. So,
Right. And hey, no, I'm not a predator. You're
yeah,
not two predators.
yeah,
Because
exactly.
how could they communicate that? And that's what something else was running through my mind. Man, these things are smart. They're
That,
smart beyond.
that it's probably not the first time they've done it,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
like I said, I learned something that day. I learned a little trick. You know, if anyone's ever we're scoping anyone out or whatever, man, I might have my buddy stand behind me in case I got to sidestep and go check him out. He's still there to watch the other one.
Yeah, yeah, I would have never. So why do you think this area is so? Because I mean, I've had a lot of reports from Oklahoma and out and about. Is it because, I mean, do you think these things are tied into a lot of the Native American beliefs and history? I mean, are these something from?
Well,
Because they talk
okay,
about them. They talk about them for sure.
I've done a lot of I've done I got a little bit of Choctaw in my blood. Okay, and I've talked to a lot of First Nations people, and I listen to everyone I can, and I've even become friends with some medicine men,
Mm-hmm.
and they've taught me a lot. And in fact, there's dark magic involved in some of this. And I know at one point in time I'd have told you was full of it,
Mm-hmm.
before these things started happening to me. But there's something else I didn't tell you about. Jeremy, he went back out the day he found the claw print. He found two coyotes out there buried side by side on their back.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it doesn't. Unless you think maybe this possibly had something to do with some dark magic. But the history of the First Nations and stuff talk about the tribe usually having two medicine men. And one of them would delve into the darker magic side of this, and the other one didn't. But when you go to war with another tribe,
Mm-hmm.
whether you like that guy or not, you're going to want the best fighter on your side. And someone who can take an animal's shape and fight on your side, you're going to make an exception, especially if the fight's for food for the winter or something like that.
Yeah, makes sense.
And yeah, and when your life's on the line, you want that mean son of a gun on your side. And I think some of these, excuse me, some of these medicine men or shaman or whatever, they got stuck in that form, because I've learned that if you do this, you've got to do it right and don't take shortcuts to the process. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Making shortcuts will get you caught up and coming back. And, that could be possibly what this is. It could just be two flesh and blood creatures, and those buried coyotes just maybe coincidence. But
Yeah. Yeah, I
you know,
mean, you're absolutely right. But that, like this, it's almost like Skinwalker, right? I mean, you're talking about
okay,
the
that's kind of what
yeah,
it's sort of like that. I mean, each tribe has their own version
yeah,
of the
yeah,
Skinwalker. The Navajo call them the Anagloshian, but when, and they talk about this, they say, well, okay, I'm going to quote Star Wars here. Do you like Star Wars?
Well, yeah, of course.
Okay. You remember when Luke was asking Yoda, is the dark side stronger? And he says, no, it's not stronger. It's faster and more seductive. He's describing that Jedi or whatever taking the shortcut
Yeah.
to that power. Okay.
Yep.
And then you seen what they look like.
Yeah.
But it if you think about that and keep an open mind, you can see what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Because if I've read some, I've talked to quite a few Native Americans and even some medicine, same as you. And I love hearing about their tradition, their culture, what they believe, their belief system, because I think they really hold the key to a lot of the stuff that we don't understand, that they do understand, because their mind is not clouded with the nonsense that they are still living the way, or try to live the way in many aspects of their ancestors. And we're just worried about, not that they're not worried about getting a smartphone, but we're worried, that becomes our culture, is the small.
And they say, oh, well, that's a bunch of hooey, you know.
Yeah, that's not their culture. They're still practicing their culture and understand, natural things. And so some of the stories that I've seen about the Skinwalkers were, that they were the medicine and the shaman that got fed up with some of the tribes.
Yeah.
Like not maybe, being too comfortable with each other, and said, we're not down with it. Or being too comfortable with white people and being like, we're not down with this. And we're going our own way, which is ironically how they describe a lot of them about Bigfoot, as a tribe that
they are a tribal.
That's right. They're very suspicious. They were very suspicious of white people, and said, hey, you guys can talk to, but we're going to stay over here, and we'll be over here in case you need us, but we're not going to hang out with us.
My friend, his name's William Nighthawk. He's got his own channel, and I've become pretty close with him, and I've learned a lot from that guy. And now when I go onto someone's property or we go on an investigation, I state my intentions at the entrance and ask permission to come on the property, because all those times I didn't realize I was trespassing.
Yeah, just because somebody else owns it, doesn't mean they own the land. The land, you know what I'm saying? They might be paying taxes on the land, but they're not.
Yeah, and what I do is I take an offering out there now. I take tobacco, and not a pack of cigarettes. Clear that one up. We took a pack of cigarettes. No, and take fresh. But man, there's something about that, Shane, that it's an ancient offering is what it is, and they like it.
Yeah.
And they also, man, I truly believe they know you're coming before you know you're going there. They're way more connected with the earth spiritually than we are.
There's something to what you said about, you and your best friend being on the same vibration. And I've done a lot of research into the whole, the vibration, and, just as far as putting your intentions out there. And I think there's something to it. People that don't want to take the time to learn about it and consider it and just practice it, I think are going to say, well, it's a bunch of mumbo jumbo, but I don't think it is. I think it's a
step that, let's say, you could either learn or ignore and take the shortcut and don't do it.
Yeah. It's really no different than, if you're a Christian, bowing your head and praying.
Mm-hmm.
You're still trying to put those intentions out there
Yes.
and the stuff that you desire and the stuff that you wish to happen. And and there's, people believe in the power of prayer and the church praying together and healing and stuff like that. So if you believe that it can happen in one setting, why can't it happen in another setting? It's just under a different label,
That's the separation right there that keeps us from coming together.
Yeah. It's still everybody getting their intentions on the same wavelength and asking or, desiring the same thing, or, praying for peace or praying for healing or whatever. It's all the same. You're asking whoever it is that you think is going to get that message, whether it's.
I've changed something else too. I meditate before I go out and I get my vibration right.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't feel right, I'm not going out.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And meditation basically is the same thing as prayer.
Mm-hmm.
It serves the same purpose, but it's best to prepare yourself before you go out than,
Mm-hmm.
I need to pray real quick. Well, it's kind of late.
Yeah, you should have done that ahead of time.
Yeah, you should have got right before you went out. And all me and Jeremy's experiences go back together. We had our first one in 1995, and all these times and other I've come on the property and I didn't understand yet that what I needed to do to prepare to do this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, so this is just a couple of months ago. Jeremy's one of our friends, his dog passed away. Okay.
Yeah.
And this was like a family member, it's a red healer. And his friend's like, man, do you have a place I can take her out and bury her? And he said, yeah. And took her to his grandpa's old land. And he knew that there might be possibly something that might want to dig this dog up. So they went out there and dug like a 4-foot hole deep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They buried her and they covered her up a little bit and they took big rocks and put them on top.
All right.
And then they put some more soil in. But they did that just to keep, scavengers and stuff from being able to get down to her and dig her up. Well, he said they took rocks that took both of them to carry and put in the hole. And he said, I think they took like 5 or 6 of these big rocks and layered them on top and filled it up all the way to the top, packed it, and the last thing they did was to put the last 2 big rocks on top of the grave.
Okay.
Or the hole for the dog. He went out there a couple of days later and something had dug, and they said the rocks had been tossed like 15 feet from the hole. Like whatever went in there digging just took them and just tossed them to the side while it was digging. They dug all the way down to where that dog was, didn't disturb it or anything. It's like they just wanted to look and see what it was.
Really?
Yeah.
So why would you go to all that trouble to just look? You know what I'm saying? Like that's crazy.
Yeah. And it just kind of correlates to what I was talking about. These things are strong. They're strong beyond what we can imagine. And I've heard people say, a lady said she's seen one down on the river. I call her my medicine woman. She lives down on the river, and I mean directly on the Red River. It's just across the highway in front of her house. She's seen one come out of her trees one time, and the ditches are really deep because, the river catches all that water that runs down through there and it goes directly into the river. Well, she saw this thing running out of the trees, and she saw it. It was running on all fours like a dog. She said, and all of a sudden it came up to two legs and running bipedal like a person. Jumped. This was her land. She saw it, and it jumped, and in one leap made it to the middle of the highway where she was coming down the highway. And when it jumped, it went boom, boom, and jumped again and made it to the other side over the barbed wire fence on the other side of the highway.
That's like supernatural stuff.
Right? Yes. And she said when it made that second jump and landed on the other side of the highway, that it dug its heels in, and she said it looked like a cartoon coming in, and it turned around and just looked at her. You know, kind of like, how'd you like that?
Which is something else that often gets said in Dogman sightings, where they just kind of look and like snicker, you know, and kind of.
She said exact words, Shane. It looked at me like it was trying to steal my soul.
Jeez. Wow.
And
yeah, you hear that all the time. You hear that
yes.
all the time where they like look at you like, so now what are you going to do? You know, like.
She said it had glowing corona colored eyes, the backlit that shine. And she even drew a picture of it. Man, I'll send you the picture she drew. She just drew a picture of its head.
Oh, that's crazy.
But and she said she's sitting there looking at this thing, and she's like, no one's going to believe that I saw this thing. And about that time, she said a guy was meeting her on the highway, and he had stopped too. He had seen it and just watched the same thing she did, except for when it turned, it looked at her instead of him. And she said she's sitting here watching this thing run into the blackjack trees of the river, and then this dude comes pulling up. And she said, I didn't even see him there, Cory, until he got up to my truck and had his window down. He said, did you see that? And she said, yeah. And he said, what in the hell was that? And she said, I don't know. You know, and I said, well, at least somebody else seen it. And she said, yeah, he was killed in a head-on collision about 2 weeks later on a dirt road. You know, which I don't think it had anything to do with what they saw, because that dirt road that happened where he had the wreck is a dangerous road. It's a lot of hills and stuff. But, you know, and I said, did you go look for a track? And she said, yeah, I found one. And I said, well, did you get a picture of it? And she said, no. I said, can you draw it? And she said, yeah. And when she drew it, it looked just like that track Jeremy had took the picture of down in there that next day. Identical.
Well, if that creature did what she saw it do, then you guys didn't stand a chance out there if they wanted to.
That's why I wasn't armed, and I said, hey, you know, you got the pistol. Go check it out. You know?
Yeah, but, I mean, that's what gets me when people will say, man, I want to go hunt these things. No, you don't. First of all, I don't think you can hunt them. I think they're kind of like Bigfoot. They'll show you themselves if they want to.
Yeah.
And it's by design, I think, especially for the Dogman. I think they show themselves because they want to scare you and they feed off the fear, or if they want to divert your attention because there's another guy coming around. I think that's
there you go.
Yep. I think that's what happens with these. And I think Bigfoot is similar in the sense that they're completely caught by surprise, but I think they're, you know, but I don't think they have the ill intention like these Dogmen.
Have you ever heard of a man named Scott Carpenter?
Yeah.
Had his own. Okay. Man, you talk about somebody who's done some research. You know, he passed away recently.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I would email him and ask him questions, and he was always nice enough to return my email, you know, and answer the question the best he could. But he was able to get hair samples, and he said the thing was he learned that you have to get the follicle that pulls out of the skin at the bottom of the hair to get a DNA sample of these things. That it's impossible to do with just the hair because of the hollow shaft in their hair. Their hair is different from ours. Ours is solid all the way to the follicle, and theirs is hollow, which leads into how they can cloak, use the sun and the shade. You know, I've seen deer that you would think, man, that thing just vanished. No, it didn't. It's in the shade and the sun, perfectly. But he said that, and he wrote a book on it, and he said that when they got the DNA sample, he learned that how you send them to a lab and everything, how to do it, because they kept losing the evidence or saying unknown. But finally, when he got somebody to do it that he could trust, it's half human DNA in the Bigfoot. So I believe they do share a humanistic, partial humanistic DNA design, which means they're a little bit more like us than a Dogman would be.
Yeah, I've always, I mean, I don't have any evidence to support it, but that's what I've always thought is that.
Scott's got a book with all of this stuff laid out. Scott Carpenter, he wrote a book before he passed with all of this information in it.
Yeah.
If you ever want to,
I'll have to check it out. I have not gotten that book to read.
That guy was smart. He was the one that thought of putting the GoPro on his shoulder to shoot behind him because he knew they were back there. And
I remember listening to him saying that he kind of thought that they thought that we could see as well in the dark as they could. And that they thought that's why they stayed hidden and would come out behind, because they thought they knew we weren't looking, because not realizing that they were way far superior in the dark and that we couldn't see them anyway if they were standing in the dark. But that they just thought, well, we could see in the dark, so can they,
Scott captured a video of one of the, and I'll say this, it's kind of terrifying. And there's pictures of it. Man, I saved them. I took them on my phone, and I can send you one. But he caught a Dogman, and he's got the height and stuff figured out, but it's just got its head peeped up out of the foliage behind him, and it's got an ear missing. There's only got one ear, or he had one laid down or something. But Shane, there's a little creature sitting on its shoulder whispering in its ear on this video.
What?
Yeah. Yes. And I looked it up, and I researched like crazy trying to find out what this thing was, because someone else has had to have seen it. And I started reading stories about these apple farmers that have these orchards, and they call them apple sprites, the creatures.
Okay. Yeah.
Have you ever heard that?
I've never heard of it. I mean, I know what a sprite is, but I've never heard of that.
That's where the apples come from, because they had apple orchards. And they say they're mean, leave them alone, But the Comanche here where I live, this is where all the Comanche lived, back in the day. Yeah. Because all these creeks that run into the Red River, they always stayed where water was. That was the source. And they had camps throughout the year that they would move to when the weather changed or whatever. And they talk about these little people, and they call them the Nunapi.
Okay.
And the Comanche call themselves the Numina. So Nunapi is the small person in the Comanche language, but it's still person, but it's Nunapi. That's what they call them. But they describe the little people, and they say they're mean. So just leave them alone. But this thing is sitting on this Dogman's shoulder, Shane.
They're kind of like
in its ear.
They're kind of like gremlin. Like you think of them as gremlins and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Different cultures have different, names
for the same thing. Yeah.
Jesus.
And I just the the tribe that I come from, the Choctaw, they don't have a whole lot of they don't have a whole lot of information about this. I mean, I'm sure they do. I've just never been able to get in contact with anyone. Most people I talk to are Comanche, Chickasaw, Cherokee, and Lakota, and Shawnee. But I don't know why. Maybe that's a reason that I see what I see. I don't know. People have asked me, "Do you think that has anything to do with it?" And I'm like, I couldn't tell you either way right now. But if you look at all the research you can and listen to everything everyone's got to say, you're going to see the puzzle pieces that are similar that fall into place. If you just kind of take your time, scope back, and think about this in a big picture.
I agree. I agree. The more people that tell their experiences, no matter how little and insignificant they think they may be, they all add up to a much bigger picture for sure. It's just, if you keep hearing the same things over and over again, it reinforces that that may tend to be a indication or a behavior of whatever these creatures are. That something that they do, or something you could look for, or something you can expect. For sure.
But when we talked about stating your intentions and everything, I know you've seen Outlaw Josie Wales, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
Clint Eastwood. Okay, remember where he goes up to Will Sampson on 10 Bears, and he said, "I'm here. This is what I'm here for. I'm here. I can either live with you or I can die with you." He was stating his intentions.
That's right. That's right.
Just like you do when you go out. Mm-hmm. I'm not here to kill anyone, but if you want to fight,
I'll fight.
You might get me, Cletus, but you're gonna limp back.
You might walk. You might walk over, but you're gonna limp back.
You're gonna limp back. We're just here, And you take that offering of tobacco. That's an ancient thing. It's been around a long time. And now I know, through getting to know the people that I know and learning all I can, that works. And like I said, if I don't feel right and I don't feel like my meditation is right and everything, I won't go out and look around. But
I don't blame you.
My home is a hot spot for paranormal activity and stuff. I have stuff happen all the time. People say, "Well, you go out," and I said, "All you got to do is walk out the front door."
Well, okay. So we were going to talk about a Bigfoot experience, but
okay.
I think maybe we just have you come back for a part 2 of the paranormal, and we'll talk about your Bigfoot and then talk about what's happening outside your front door. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I can't believe how long we've already talked about this. So.
That's what I told you. I've got a ton of experiences and things that have happened, and most of them involve Jeremy with me, out here at my house.
When's Jeremy going to get smart and start hanging out with somebody that doesn't get him into...
Hey, nobody else wants to hang out with us is the deal.
Oh, geez. Well, yeah, we'll make plans and do that. We'll do that in the new year and come back on and hear some of your Bigfoot
anytime, man.
Yeah. So, well, I appreciate you telling this Dogman experience. I think you did.
I'm sure it's not over. I'm sure it's not over.
I think people are going to be real interested in some of the little details that you shared, because that is the first time I've heard, about the two coordinating. And I think that might get some people's attention that are listening to the show and always are like, I'm going to go out and look and stuff. Well, you better start thinking about some other stuff now too, because
you better get right, partner.
That's right. State your intentions and go with somebody else. Take somebody that you can run faster than.
Yeah. Hey, the deal is too, learn how to meditate and breathe and get your vibration and your frequency right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a big thing, because if you don't, to them, when they feel what you're doing, oh, I'm just out here, and don't take idiots with you.
Yeah,
that shoot at anything, or you've got to have someone that can control their fear.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've all got it.
That makes
Anybody
sense.
that tells you they're not scared of anything or don't have fear and they're telling you the truth, they're crazy.
It's true. And before we jump off, did you say you're just starting, or you're putting together your own YouTube channel?
Yeah, I've got my channel. I haven't started doing live shows yet, but I've got all the evidence in my posts that I have, photos. The one I shared with you, it's in there.
Okay.
It's Boondock Mojo, Cory Cole. I'm on YouTube.
Boondock. So
anybody can go on there, and you have to go to my posts, and you'll see the photo evidence.
Okay. Well, we'll put a link up to your YouTube channel in the description so people can go check it out. I think they'll enjoy it. And
if y'all have wondered while I'm jerking around and stuff and moving, my dog is playing with me. He every time I do a live show, man, he thinks it's time to play.
Well, only the people watching on YouTube know. Everybody else on Apple, Spotify, they don't know anything. They don't know anything. There's the dog. Yeah, you have to come to YouTube so you can see his dog. Yeah. Hey, look, if I had a dog that nice, I might be. He's not. He bites too hard sometimes. Oh, geez. Well, Cory, thanks so much for hanging out and telling and sharing these experiences and your insight. I appreciate it.
Anytime, man.
All right. Well, we will be talking soon.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time. Never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.